Before we get started, I have a huge announcement. A lot of people have been asking me why I haven't covered Dark Magicians yet. Well, it's because I want to save it for a special occasion. And I have decided that if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will cover Dark Magician at length, meaning that it won't be a 10-minute video. It will be at least 30 minutes or more. So if you want to see that, don't forget to subscribe. But enough of that self-promotion BS. Let's get started with the video. You guys have voted, and today we'll be covering Cyber Dragons. Not only is it one of the most iconic monsters in all of GX, but it actually carved its way in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, kind of representing the early signs of power creep within the game. But since then, they have pretty much fallen off. But it begs the question, how good were Cyber Dragons actually? Cyber Dragons debuted in Cybernetic Revolution, releasing in August of 2005, and it was an instant hit. It turns out that a 2500 attack level 5 monster that can special summon itself if your opponent controls a monster in 2005 was pretty freaking good.
Uncle Stan, is that legal?
When there's no cops around, anything's legal.
Cyber Dragon was literally everywhere. Almost every top deck was running it. If you had a dartboard of all the top decks of the time, it would be pretty hard not to hit a Cyber Dragon. The modern day equivalent would probably be Cashier Fenrir, where it does a good job putting pressure on your opponent. It can be used as tribute fodder, and it's a solid beat stick. But it can sometimes be a brick in hand. But Cyber Dragon wasn't just a generic staple. It also had good support in its first wave, like Power Bond. Power Bond reads, fusion summon one machine fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, and it gains attack equal to its original attack. During the end phase of the turn that this card was activated, you take damage equal to the amount of attack gained from this effect at the time of the summon. Now, this was a really good polymerization, but a good polymerization is completely useless if it doesn't have a good target. But luckily for Cyber Dragons, they did. Cyber Twin Dragon allowed you to attack with it twice per battle phase, and Cyber End Dragon allowed you to attack with piercing damage with 4,000 attack points. This made pure Cyber Dragon decks a solid rogue OTK strategy, but overall the deck was still pretty clunky. That was until February of 2006, where Cyber Dragons got their second wave of support in Shadows of Infinity, where they got 3 new main deck monsters, including Cyber Barrier Dragon that allows you to negate one of your opponent's attacks while this monster is in attack position, Cyber Laser Dragon that allows you to destroy one of your opponent's monsters with attack equal to or higher than this monster's attack points, and Proto Cyber Dragon that becomes Cyber Dragon while on the field. Now, this second wave of support didn't make Cyber Dragons tier 0, but what it did do is add some consistency to a solid OTK strategy that could compete in tournaments. And Konami, in their vast wisdom, decided that, you know, Cyber Dragons has a solid base, and you know what we should do? Make a semi-new archetype that barely works at all. Cyber Dragons went through an emo phase in November of 2006, where Konami introduced Cyberdarks in the set Cyberdark Impact.
Be on the news today. Listen to your son in there. That's not my son, okay? That's Satan's spawn.
To put it scientifically, these cards were, well, absolute garbage. But if you don't believe me, let's take a look. Cyberdark Horn allowed you to equip a dragon monster from your graveyard and apply piercing damage. Cyberdark Edge also allowed you to equip a dragon monster from your graveyard, apply attack equal to the equipped monster, and you can attack directly. And Cyberdark Keel that also has the graveyard equip effect, but if it destroys a monster, it does an additional 300 damage to your opponent. And what did this all equate to? Absolutely nothing in their new boss monster, Cyberdark Dragon. The main issue with Cyberdark Dragon is that it cost way too much for very little payoff. In order to summon Cyberdark Dragon, you needed to fusion summon Cyberdark Horn, Cyberdark Edge, and Cyberdark Kneel. All that in order to summon a glorified beat stick. It really didn't make any sense to actually play this deck because Cyber Dragons themselves did that way better. Luckily, that was not the end for Cyber Dragons because they got more support in February of 2014 with the structure deck Cyber Dragon Revolution. This structure deck gave a Cyber Dragon core that allowed you to search for a cyber spell or trap, and if it's in the graveyard, it allows you to banish it to special summon a Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon Repair Plant that allows you to add one light machine monster from your deck to your hand, or target one light machine monster from your graveyard and shuffle it back into your deck. And if you have more than 3 Cyber Dragons in your graveyard, you get to do both. And finally, and most importantly, Cyber Dragon Nova. Cyber Dragon Nova reads, once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, then target one Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, special summon that target. Once per turn, quick effect, you can banish one Cyber Dragon from your hand or face up from your monster zone. This card gains 2100 attack until the end of this turn. If this card is in your possession, is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon one machine fusion monster from your extra deck.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
Now, this was really good support, but the deck still felt like it was, well, lacking something. Luckily, Konami obliged in January of 2016 with the set Breakers of Shadow. Now, this set included 2 very important extra deck monsters for Cyber Dragons. And those extra deck monsters include Chimeratech Rampage Dragon that allows you to destroy as many spells and traps that it took to fusion summon this monster. And the deck's new boss monster, Cyber Dragon Infinity, that has this crazy effect that reads, once per turn you can also XC summon Cyber Dragon Infinity by using Cyber Dragon Nova you control as material. Gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. Once per turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field, attach it to this card as material. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Infinity changed everything. It could negate, it could suck up a monster, and it was easily summoned through Nova. It was looking really good for Cyber Dragons, especially since you can either play it in Pure or in ABCs, another archetype that was doing really good at the time. That was until Master Rule 4 came out, and it completely shook up the game and introduced link monsters. Now you might be asking, what do links have to do with anything? Well, back in Master Rule 4, you either had to be in the extra monster zone or pointing at a link arrow in order to special summon from the extra deck, which included fusions and XCs, which if you haven't noticed, Cyber Dragons does a lot of, and without their own link, it was kind of hard to run their strategy. That is until they got their own link monster in April of 2018 with the release of Cybernetic Horizon. Even though Cyber Dragon Seeker didn't revolutionize the deck, it did make it playable in a format that wasn't really that friendly towards Cyber Dragons. By 2021, pure Cyber Dragons were pretty much power crept out of the game. So that begged the question, what was next for Cyber Dragons? No, we're not doing this again. Please, I'm done. Please, not Cyberdarks again. Cyberdarks received 3 new main deck monsters in Cyberdark Chimera, Cannon, and Claw. In addition, Cyberdarks also received a new continuous spell in Cyberdark Realm. Cyberdark Realm allowed you to add a Cyberdark to your hand and allowed you to special summon a Cyberdark monster immediately after. Also, if you activate a Cyberdark effect that allows you to equip from the graveyard, equip from your opponent's graveyard instead. Now, when it comes to Cyberdark support, this is actually pretty good. The only problem is this equates to almost nothing because of its new boss monster. Cyberdark End Dragon is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, and this card can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of equipped monsters. Now, this would be really good if it wasn't for the required material in order to summon this friggin' thing. You need Cyber End Dragon and Cyber Dark Dragon, which is a lot already to get both on board.
1, yes or no. 2, don't be a fucking moron.
How am I supposed to follow that second rule?
Maybe by shutting the fuck up.
Now, did this structure deck make Cyberdarks functional? Yes. But did it make it good? Absolutely not. The main problem with this deck is that it only takes one piece of disruption to completely haywire this strategy. And you know how I know this? Is because this structure deck is actually the first deck I bought when I was getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, when your opponent does absolutely nothing and you're actually able to get to Cyberdark End Dragon, it's pretty good. But you know how often that actually happened? Almost never. So how good were Cyber Dragons actually? Well, back in their heyday, they were really, really good, and Cyber Dragon, Nova, and Infinity are still played in certain decks even to this day. But the problem is that the strategy is way too much of a glass cannon. One interruption and it completely disrupts the entire strategy. Now, in the first time in this channel's history, we're talking about archetype that has cards announced, but not yet released in the TCG. I'm not going to go super in depth, but I thought I would mention them anyways. In May of 2025, Cyber Dragons will receive 2 new pieces of support in Alliance Insight. These 2 new pieces of support are Cyber Jorgengander and Cyberdark Worm. Cyber Jorgengander works as a solid starter and replacement for the original Cyber Dragon, and Cyberdark Worm works as an extender for Cyberdark plays. Now, I can't imagine either of these cards will make Cyber Dragons a tier 1 deck, but I can imagine both of them being played in future decks if Cyber Dragon gets more support. But that's all I have for you guys today. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my friends in today's sponsor, Hollow Games. No matter if you're a collector, competitor, or you just like trading cards, Hollow Games has you covered. Go check them out on their TCG store, and I'll see you guys next time.